Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Kobold Chats. My name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer. I use any all pronouns, and it's Friday again. My favorite time, my favorite time of the day, Friday. My favorite day of the week, but also my favorite time of the day when I get to talk to all of you about my favorite stuff, which is Kobold Press stuff. And it is another wonderful day where we are talking Monster Vault 2 with one of the designers who helped make this book possible. Tell us your campaign builder Dungeons and Ruin secrets. I can't. They're secrets. You used the word secret in your message and then thought that I was going to be able to tell you. You know they're secrets. You know they're secrets. Hey Andy, how's it going? When I'm able to tell you more about campaign builder Dungeons and Ruins, I will tell you. But until then, they are secrets that are locked in a vault. And that's a separate vault from what we're talking about today, because today we're talking Monster Vault 2. It is, oh gosh, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is in the campaign, but there are only 13 more of them to go until we finish the Kickstarter for Campaign Builder. No, not, see, you got me on Campaign Builder now. Before we finish the Monster Vault 2 Kickstarter. We are currently sitting at $215,000, which is amazing. We soared right past our starting goal, of course, and we've hit quite a number of the stretch goals as well, which, I mean, are great because the stretch goals were cool, right? We hit the $100,000 one where we got the Encounter Builder update that will now include all of the Monster Vault 2 monsters within that Encounter Builder. We got the field guide to monster harvesting PDF for all of the backers, $29 and up. We got the monster designed by Jesse Galino, which is the Veil Worm. We talked about it last week, and we'll be talking about it next week on Scouting Party as well, because I love the Veil Worm so much. Glad we got that one. And then we got the Encounter Tracker PDF at $200,000, which still means we have some stretch goals we can hit. That $233,000 one it's like we're almost there. We're so close. We're so close to getting that monster designed by none other than Luke Gygax himself. So, if you haven't already backed, you have some friends who haven't backed yet, you have a GM in your life, you have a player in your life who might like a new monster book, get them in, because we all benefit. We all benefit from those stretch goals being hit. So do with that information what you will. The Encounter Tracker, is the Encounter Tracker a separate PDF? Yes, it will be a separate PDF that anybody will be able to get. That will, I mean, the name of the PDF tells you what it does, doesn't it? It helps you track your encounters and be able to better organize and keep track of all the different things going on in your encounters. We love tools like that. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest for today, Srah. Thank you for joining me. Let me make sure people should be able to hear you. Yes, they should be able to hear you.
Hello.
How's it going?
I hope everybody can hear me. Good.
So for people who don't know you, you are a Kobold Press favorite. You have you worked on Tome of Beasts 3, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tome
Yep.
of Beasts 3, Monster Vault 2. You've been in the designing game for quite a while now.
Yes. I've done a lot of Kobold Press stuff. So yeah, I was even in the Dungeon Master's Guide that they put out, or the Game Master's Guide, excuse me, for Tale of the Valiant, and a whole bunch of stuff. Whole host of Kobold Press design stuff.
Amazing. Hold on, give me 1 second. I just realized the thing that I thought I had set up was only partially set up.
Oh no.
Give me 1 second. I fix that. Okay, cool. And now, give me. See, would it be a stream if there wasn't a singular every single time?
And there's always something different. So
It's
yeah.
always something different. It's always the same issue with a different cause.
Yep.
Every single time. Okay, now people should be able to hear you.
Oh, good. Yay. Hi.
Perfect. There we go. See, that one was way easier than trying to solve it last week. Um, but yeah, so how we have Warren in our YouTube chat says you have a very impressive bookshelf backdrop full
Yes.
of games and full of stuff. Um, sorry, having to realign where I was
Ran.
pre
Yes.
pre thing. Monsters. We're talking monsters and talking your design.
Yes.
So for the Monster Vault 2, um, yeah, how many? I guess. Do you know the number of monsters in this book that you designed?
That I personally designed, I think it's around 30,
Okay.
maybe something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere. So I think it was like between 30 and 40
Yeah.
monsters. So, a decent number.
A
It
decent,
was like
yeah,
a couple.
just just 30 terrifying monsters to throw
Just
at.
a few.
Yeah, just a few, right? You, I would love for us to start off talking about a monster that you designed that you and I talked about on Scouting Party. That is one of my new favorite monsters. The spider
Is it
is it the spider devil or demon? I'm trying.
demon? The
Yes,
arachnoth?
yes,
Yes.
Arachnoth. Please.
I thought we might talk about this. I know you're very excited about the arachnoth. Yeah, so the arachnoth is a spider demon, serves the demon lord of spiders,
Mm-hmm.
unsurprisingly.
Unsurprisingly.
Um, is yeah, it's a vaguely humanoid shaped creature. So it's bipedal, but it's got four spider-like legs that come out of its torso. It's got like scorpion claws and a stinger tail,
Mm-hmm.
because scorpions are arachnids
Right.
somehow, because nature is wild. Um, but yeah, so it's got a lot of really weird attacks, and some of the fun stuff it does. It vomits spiders and scorpions and other arachnids at you in a big old cone, and they're stingy and bitey. But it can also like see and hear through basically any arachnid anywhere. So like it can be spying on you. And it has the ability, once it stings you with its little big scorpion tail. Um, if it manages to successfully poison you with that, it can like subtly manipulate you and control you as well. So your
Yeah.
party doesn't know, necessarily who if you're in control of who you are. And yeah, yeah, they're a lot of fun.
It's so I where did the idea of it like spitting out like these
I
spiders and scorpions come from? Because that's
uh,
horrifying. But I love it.
yeah. So I think so. Part of what I like to do is think of things horrifying and terrible for monster design because you want it to be scary.
Right.
And so I don't even know where it initially came from, but I think I was thinking of the idea of like swarms of spiders and swarms of scorpions, and utilizing the small teeny tiny little critters. And I'm like, well, we have spider swarm, like that's kind of a thing that happens. And I somehow, in a spark of wild inspiration, I guess, got the idea of it just vomiting these bugs onto you. And I was just like, that's awful. I love that.
That's awful. I love it.
It's
Right.
terrible.
And I think we as, designers, GMs, people who throw monsters at, characters should be more comfortable with throwing monsters that just vomit up other
Hmm.
things
Hmm.
onto them.
Yes.
And I especially love that like it acts as both like a horrifying thing for them to do in the first place, but also that it has this secondary use of like
Hmm.
creating spies for itself. And
Yep.
even using players as spies. Like how do you balance the making a creature both terrifying to like face like one on one, but also like making it like potentially a long lasting threat or like something that could come and attack you once, and that is just setting itself up for like, okay, you
Yeah.
all are going to do what you're going to do, and then I'm coming back later.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's a interesting and fun balance because inevitably, if you have a monster, your players are going to want to fight it, right? I mean, it's got a stat block. It's there to be beaten up. And
Hmm.
we're all playing tabletop RPGs. We want to roll dice. We want to hit things. But having the ability to provide the GM with those juicy little bits of like, well, it could just be a meat sack for your folks to swing swords at. And it probably will be, but also like it can do these other fun things that if you are tricksy and you are like you plot long-term things that you can utilize it and make it kind of even more terrifying that it's scary. I mean, it's scary in combat anyway because it's got 8 legs and giant stingers and but then
Yeah.
this concept that like it may still be lingering even after either you've defeated it or if you fight several and one gets away,
Hmm.
like the concept of the Rakshasa was always really fun because it's like you kill this thing, but then it wants to continue to hunt you, and because of its nature, it's killing it is not necessarily the end of things, right?
Right.
So that's always, a lot of fun, both plot for the GM and for players too, because who doesn't love that? It's great. It's fun.
Right. And
Who loves being hunted? I love being hunted. It's great.
it's actually one of my favorite things to do to players is have, oh, you thought you were done with this person. You
Hmm.
thought that they were just going to go away, and
Hmm.
no, they're around and they're actively looking for you. It puts a lot of very easy, I shouldn't say easy, but like very like the tension within every moment of like whatever we're choosing to do right now. We have to be very
Hmm.
clear about it, and we have to be quick about it because there is something actively after us.
Yep. Yep.
Oh my goodness. Are there any other monsters that you designed for the Monster Vault 2 that's within that line of like both being like an active threat for players but also potentially like a long-standing thing that they should be looking out for?
So so I keep coming back to this one. So I think if others who have listened to this chat in our chats before, um, I designed the Oropod, which is the treasure millipede. So it's this tiny little millipede that when it curls up looks like a golden coin. So it's basically just indistinguishable from a coin when
Mm-hmm.
it's curled. Um, and they're mostly harmless by themselves. I mean, they're tiny. They don't have a lot of hit points, but they eat gold and gems and other things. And so, sort of their whole thing is they look like a coin, so that they get slipped into a coin purse or deposited into a bank vault, or into like a treasure hoard, and then they just kind of go to town. Um, but they also they have like a paralytic poison. So, like I said, in and of themselves, and one of them bites you. Basically, it's basically to try to get away. But if
Mm-hmm.
you end up with too many of these guys, you might be having a bad time. So, so
Yeah.
it could be like a long-term problem in that you, as an PC, you end up with one in your bag of holding or whatever, and you don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and suddenly your gold starts dwindling, and you're like, I swear I had
I
more
had
money in
more
here.
money at
I
some
swear I
point.
had like 20 gold in here and I don't maybe burning a hole in my pocket. But yeah, so it has a lot of fun uses for plot and nonsense. So yeah.
Yeah, because you and I talked about like my first thought was that when I heard about the Oropod, it was like, oh, this feels like something that thieves guilds would try to use against each other all the time. It's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
oh, or like my rival is like, is been causing me trouble. Well, let's try to stick an Oropod somewhere in their coffers, and then up there goes, there goes their, their vault of whatever.
Yep.
Um, and it's like, and it's creatures like that that make like that I think are very inspiring as far as like thinking of, oh, how do people live in a world with monsters and how do they try to deal with that?
Hmm.
um and yeah, no, that's just really good. um are there any other monsters that I had that you and I haven't already talked about that you want to talk about?
So I'm really excited because we did some art-led monsters this time,
Yeah.
where basically the art for them came first, and then normally the designers create it, and then we tell the artists this is what it needs to look like. But they let the artists this time like have a go at making a bunch of art for monsters, and then coming to us and giving us the art for it and saying, okay, now what would this be? Designing from this. And I got to design the monster that's on the cover. So I'm very thrilled about that one. So
Oh wait,
that
you
big
got to
like
that's so cool.
lightning
The lightning
creature. Yep.
devil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to design that one and I'm very excited about it. So you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, what is when you first saw the art of the lightning devil right on the cover, um, what were your what were your immediate thoughts about like, okay, what is this thing going to be able to do?
Well, so if you look at the art, and I can't pull it up right now because I have a gazillion windows, but it's this big horned, scaled demon devil looking thing standing on a rooftop, and there's storms and lightning, and there's chaos happening.
Right.
So I was like, obviously this thing is going to have lightning abilities, possibly the ability to summon storms or control the weather.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also I didn't want to just be like, oh well, elemental stuff, right? Because
Right.
that's fun. No, don't get me wrong. I love some good elemental stuff, but I kind of wanted to think a little bit more outside of the box with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's kind of a demon from the portions of the abyss that border like the plane of storms. So it is kind of like an elemental demon. It's a demon that has been sort of infused with by the proximity of like the elemental forces of the plane of storms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they have the fun, lightning, and they can teleport via lightning strike, basically, which is a
What?
lot of fun. Yeah. Um, but they kind of serve demon lords and deities of storms and chaos and things like that. So they're sent in sort of as like strike teams a
Yeah.
lot of times. Like if there's going to be an incursion, they'll hit first because they can get in fast, and can kind of jump all over the place because they can teleport via the lightning, and then they can create this giant storm above them that they can then just like rain down lightning and chaos and all sorts of fun stuff. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. Like like you telling me this is making me imagine like, oh, what would I would do with this? Oh, I would love to have like this huge encounter where like it's just this one town or this one city with this one lightning demon
Hmm.
that's conjured a storm and is like popping around places and the characters have to like run over rooftops and then I'm like,
Yep.
oh, this is the cover of the that I'm thinking of.
Yep. Yep. Well,
Which
that was
hey,
my other thing too. I was like, he's on the rooftop.
yeah,
Like, and that's an interesting place to have a fight. I'm like, so why is he up there? Like, why are we having, other than the fact that it's cool visually, right, to have a fight on the rooftop? But I was like,
right.
that seems like there's a reason that like that the creature chose that as its battleground. And I'm like, well, if it's, not just channeling the lightning, like if there's something involved with the storm and things like that, if it's outside, then it can jump around. And then that's difficult for the PCs, right? Because
Yeah.
you're having to go rooftop to rooftop. Whereas it can just
Mm-hmm.
hop back and forth. And yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah.
the Rogue's second story work getting a lot of getting a lot of work in that
Yep.
one.
Yep.
But yeah, that's so cool, and I think the vibe that you've like given us is, like I said, like exactly what I imagine for the creature that we see there. And Ryan in the chat it makes a good point. Usually we see a lot of like fiends and demons with like fire powers, but seeing them with like lightning or storm powers is like a
Hmm.
really nice change. Which
And
also,
thank you to the artist for that. Good. I'm not sure which artist did that piece, but excellent.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Now I'm just imagining what other kinds of different elemental like fiends and demons that I would love to see just like in the future. Um
Just yeah.
yeah. There was you also worked on a lot of like quite a few of the we talked about this like the flora one creatures,
Yeah.
right? You and I talked about the in next week's outing party for everyone listening. We talked about the like uh what was it called? It was the one that's like on shores,
Oh,
kind
the
of like,
eye coral.
yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about the eye coral. People can wait to listen to that one. Is there another one of the floral ones that you think would be interesting to talk about?
So I made one. Let me find the name of it in my list of 40 creatures. Oh, it's the Askembla. Um, Askembla. It's a mouthful, but they are driftwood
Mm-hmm.
plants. So they're basically these little small sized plants that are composed of driftwood.
Mm-hmm.
And when they aren't moving, they look like regular driftwood, but then they get up in there and these cute little like, driftwood humanoid shaped creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And they tend to live in along like fjords and things like that in little inlets and stuff. And they have kind of a good relationship. I made another um creature called the Vickelver. I don't even know how to pronounce my own things, but
Vickelver?
they Vicalver. They are kind of like pirate Viking elves for it's the TLDR.
Yes, if you're
And
speaking my
so
language.
sometimes they will have an Askembla that comes and lives on their ship with them to sort of be a little defender, and it can like merge itself into the ship, the wood of the ship itself, and be sort of like the eyes and the ears of the ship. And so they have a good relationship with these pirate Viking elves. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, their presence is usually considered like good luck. It means that like a cove or whatever is good and protected, and it's a good place to be.
yeah.
And so yeah, then they can kind of sometimes form these relationships with these other elves and
I
yeah.
love that kind of symbiotic relationship between them. That's really cool. And now I want like a bunch of NPCs of I want to do a pirate campaign now that has like that has one like on the ship that could just kind of pop around.
Hmm.
That's really good. Lots of things being able to like um with like different connections with the world or other creatures around them, like for like the
Hmm.
arachnoth with like them and spiders, and like the lightning demon like with them and like lightning, and like with them and wood. Is is there something that's like inspiring for you that like kind of leads you in that direction for like, oh, the way that like a creature might have a relationship with the world around it or other things that it might be using to kind of, you know.
So one of the things that Megan and the others really did when we were getting into design for this book was they really encouraged us to sort of talk to each other and try to do design in which there were references and relationships, either friendly or antagonistic, with the other monsters the other designers were making, because it
Yeah.
creates more of an ecosystem. Um, Instead of it feeling like this is just a monster that just exists and you can plop it down or whatever, it has a more thriving universe for it to exist in. It offers more both utility and inspiration for GMs as well, right? So if
Yeah.
it's like I say that there are these pirate sea elves and they have these little things that live in this coat, and so and you can develop relationships or interesting story beats or even just more interesting combat scenarios, honestly. If I know that, these creatures might be found together, you start thinking about, okay, what does that look like, both from a story perspective
Mm-hmm.
and when I'm creating a combat, you know, what are the strategies that these creatures have? How do their abilities work together?
Yeah.
How can they play off of each other? And like, how would they play off of each other? Like, because obviously they know what the other creature can do. So how would that factor into their strategies? How does that factor into my strategy as a GM?
Mm-hmm.
What interesting and surprising things can I do with them that the players are maybe not necessarily expecting? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I mean that's really cool, and I really like that that level of thought went into the book and the creating of monsters and being like, oh hey, how are these going to relate to each other both
Hmm.
mechanically and also narratively, because there's nothing I love more than just popping open a monster book, reading a thing and going, oh, that sounds super interesting, and then that makes me flip to another page of like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
where's that
Mm-hmm.
one like monster come from? um I Now that I'm thinking about it, with the I want to, well, first I want to know about the pirates. I want to know about the pirates. That's just a thing that I want to know. But also, yeah, let's talk about the pirates first, and then we could get into the thing that was
All
making me
right, give me
think
a
of.
second. I gotta pull up my thing. Those were in my first phase, I think. It's been a hot minute since I looked at them. Hold on.
Yeah, no, please take your
Where
time.
are they? The color, where are you? Oh no, maybe it was in. Oh my gosh.
Also, while this is
There
happening,
we
if
are.
any of
Yes.
you in the chat have any questions, please feel more than free to ask them, and if we can get to them, we 100% will.
Okay. I found them. We are a success. So they are actually Fae. I misspoke. They are
Oh.
not elves. They are Fae, but they're Fae in that like elvy sort of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they they sometimes get, in fact, I mentioned that they sometimes get called sea elves, but they kind of take that
As like
a
that's not who we
pejorative.
are.
They're like, we're not sea elves, thank you very much. We are Fae, and they, they got blue skin, they got a kind of a lot of the physical characteristics of a elf or a fae that would be have an affinity to the sea,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. But they sort of uh, they're sailors most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find them on ships, either pirate ships or legit sailing crews.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they sort of fill a little bit of a spot where they've got this sort of typical, hand axe, hand crossbow, very sort of mobile um, abilities.
Yeah.
But then they also have some like innate spell casting when it comes to being like we are of the sea,
Right.
and so we have things like shape water. They have gust of wind, so they can blow you off their ship. Like, no, get out of here, that sort
Right.
of thing. Um, and they are very sort of they revel in, that freedom that comes with the open water. But I also tied them in to also there's another creature called the Isharar, which was in Monster Vault 1,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Which are they're the sea fae, but they have like underwater um can't think of the word, so
Yeah.
civilization isn't the right word, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
like they like
Um
make their homes
yeah,
underwater,
so they have
and
like the
yeah.
courts and
Mm-hmm.
so the Culver are kind of like the outcasts almost. Like they are more chaotic in a way that the Isharar are sort of like the noble, very like high and mighty,
Mm.
important, whatever. And so they kind of have this antagonistic relationship with them because the Isharar are like, no, this is our deal. And they're like, no, you guys are doing it wrong. Um,
You're doing it
so
wrong.
doing so yeah, the Isharar sort of view them as like rebellious vassals that need to be brought back under their control or whatever. And the Vikalver are like, no, we're gonna go be on our ships and you can do your thing. It's fine.
Yeah,
So
that's really good. Um, Oh, Warren, just to answer I can answer your question actually. The question is, did we have any custom Doom Point things in different parts of the monsters? If I am remembering correctly, and I believe I am, because Doom is an optional rule for Tales of the Valiant, none of the monsters have built in mechanics for how to use Doom, or for like, oh, like use this, like use a Doom point for like a special ability for this monster, because it's an optional rule across the board. And so we didn't want to bake in Doom into any of the monsters, because if you're not using Doom in your game, it would be an unusable ability for you, if that makes sense. So there you go for that. But I love them. I love these chaotic sea pirate fae. Is there was there anything that was leading you towards like creating a lot of a lot of like sea or water based monsters? Like just thinking of like the three, right? The eye coral monsters,
Hmm.
uh, these like sea elf fae, and then also the I'm
The
they're
little driftwood guys,
yeah
Askembla. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a couple. So like I've got an underwater celestial and uh, an undead bone whale. Honestly, that part it was mostly the needs of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because not only, we had certain parameters where we knew we needed, you know, an underwater
Yeah, like
celestial. They
this
were like, give us
many.
an underwater celestial. And so, kind
Yeah.
of coming up with the concept of what that would look like, to make sure that the book itself is well-rounded as far as like offerings, because you don't want all whole bunch of, desert-based elemental creatures, because
Right. How
you
many
only have
games
so
are
many.
taking
I mean, how
place
many
in
do you
that?
need?
Yeah.
Right. Um, and so they definitely were really careful about making sure we filled a good range of terrain, of CR, of monster types, and everything else. And so a lot of that came down from the top of this is what we need.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of had a little bit of, we had some choice as far as what we wanted to do. They sort of bundled them together and said, here's a group of monsters we need made. And everybody sort of had got the chance to say what they wanted to do. Um, so I definitely there was a few that I ended up gravitating toward
Mm-hmm.
more. And I think like the sea fae was definitely one of them, the bone whale and the underwater celestial, just because that was an interesting concept of like,
Yeah.
what does an underwater celestial look like? Like what is that? And
Well,
so,
what does an underwater celestial look
well,
like?
my underwater celestial looks kind of like I'm trying to remember the word. So you know how jellyfish are sort of translucent.
Mm-hmm.
So this is sort of a translucent, iridescent, vaguely angel-shaped looking underwater, but in like a very deep sea sort of
Ooh.
way. So like if you see some of like the deep sea creatures that look like they're flying through the water,
Yeah.
um, like that, only it's big and celestial.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
I
yeah, I'm excited to see the art for that one when it gets done because yeah.
yeah, I the sea is full of so many weird things.
Yes.
And it's like yeah, someone in the chat said that we need more aquatic adventures. I agree. We do need more aquatic adventures and more aquatic monsters like that for sure.
Yeah, let me pull up and see exactly what because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it has a humanoid face in there somewhere. But as you do.
As you do. There's something about slowly floating to the bottom of the sea. It's like, okay, we're looking for this thing. And then a very human looking face looking out of you, looking out at you from the murky
Hmm.
depths. That is horrifying.
Yep. Oh, it
Because,
has tentacles too. Yeah.
oh, wonderful. Amazing. Every, every underwater sea monster's dream.
So yeah.
God. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Monster Vault 3 should add dolphins. Just dolphins. Just regular dolphins.
Like, is it a vamp? No, it's just a dolphin.
Nope, just a
No,
dolphin.
nothing weird.
Don't worry about it.
Nope.
It's just a dolphin. Hey,
Hmm.
it's leading you somewhere. Oh, that
Fine.
sure that should be fine. Oh my goodness. Um, God, I'm trying to. My brain is stuck in the water now. Um, what is it about the sea that you find inspiring as far
It's
as like
terrifying.
it is?
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love the beach. I will go to the beach every day of the week, but like there's just there's so much of it.
There's so
And
much of it.
it's so deep and there's so much down there and like it's
And
terrifying.
the
And like
deeper
I
you
definitely
go, the worse it gets.
yeah, and like I very much have a certain amount of oh, I just lost the name of the
Uh,
basilophobia.
yeah, the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like the concept of like so for those of you who've played Witcher 3, when you're in Skellige and you go underwater and the whales kind of come when you're underneath the water and you can see the whales coming out of the darkness of the water at you is terrifying to me because there's just no sense of size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of percept like
Of like
it could be you don't
scale, right?
right scale like you don't know how far it is, how big it is. It could be 10 feet in front of you. It could be so far away and yet it's still coming and getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets closer to you, and that's horrifying to me. And
Yeah.
just some of the deep sea creatures are just, I mean, it's fascinating. But it's almost like I don't even have to do any work, right? It's like these already exist. Like I don't have to design anything weird. They're there.
They already are
Um,
there.
so yes.
I didn't even think about the lack of being able to tail to the lack,
Perceive scale.
yeah,
Yeah.
perceived scale as far as distance and also size, because something could be absolutely huge and it be really
Hmm.
far away
Hmm.
and you're like, I don't know how big that thing actually is by the time it gets here, or it looks
Right.
really small far away and then it's
And you just wait and you're like, oh
huge,
no.
and it only gets
Oh
bigger
no.
as it gets closer. You're like, how
Yep.
far is it? Like a mile, 2 miles away from me? It's like, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. So like underwater is kind of the same thing as like outer space to me. You know, it's the same
Yeah.
concept of just this giant space, this area that there's and the fact that it's like it can come at you from any angle,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and things are like our reality no longer makes sense as soon as you go deep enough into the ocean. It's just like it's a completely different world. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Understandable. Yeah. Well, no, yeah, yeah. Now I just want a bunch of deep sea. That's always the thing that gets me, because I want to do deep sea adventures, but then I go, well, how are they moving around it like normally down there, or like
Yeah.
quote unquote, like what is normal movement look like down there? And I guess that's when you start getting to like underwater vehicles and such. But then, like I
Hmm.
imagine, like sea elves or like merfolk or like Sahagwin don't necessarily need them. What would that adventure look like, or like that campaign look like, just underwater?
That's a fun design challenge though, is
Yeah.
like, well, what do they do? And like, yeah, I definitely think that a lot of people don't do deep sea adventures because there is that there's too many, it seems almost daunting that there's too many things that you have to consider, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I argue that you could come up with some creative ideas, and if you let players have at it, like players come up with all sorts of wild stuff, man.
That's true. If
Like
you're like,
you
hey,
don't even need to come up with the ideas. They'll do it for you.
I want to do this. How do you all think? What would be the most fun way to do this for you?
Yep.
Hey, maybe that's the, yeah. Maybe you're right. That's the way. I my brain is going to what game is that? I think it's Final Fantasy 10 that has Blitzball.
A blitz ball,
Yeah,
yes,
where
10.
where the mini game is, you're in this huge sphere of water,
Bubble.
but you're
You're like,
only ever moving
it's
on a
fine.
singular plane.
Don't think too hard about it. It's
Don't think
fine.
too hard about it.
Just shh.
It's
It's the
they,
vibes. It's about the vibes.
it's the vibes of being in a bit. Maybe that's how you do it. Screw the up and down. There's
Hmm.
no y axis here. It's only forward
Nope.
and
Yep.
backwards. Maybe that's the way to do it. Um, we are getting into the final moments here. So if any of you all have any more questions, now is the time to do so. Um, uh, but other than that, let's get one more monster. Let's do one more monster before we head out.
Hmm. One more monster. Let's see. Um, oh gosh, there's so many. They're so good. Let's go with the one I haven't talked about yet.
Perfect.
So this is one I actually it was one of the last ones I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called a Flotsam Guardian,
Flotsam Guardian.
and it is a construct made up of like swamp debris. So if you think
I
about
think
like
I've seen the art for this one.
and it's I love the art so much. I love this guy. Like I was like I would die for this. I would die for this guy. So the art of it's this it's got two big long stumps for legs,
I
right?
have seen
And then
this.
the center of it is a paddle wheel like you would find on a paddle but like a steamboat. So it's this big paddle wheel. And it's got these tiny little arms. And then he has this almost turtle-like head on him.
Mhm.
Just and it's all made of wood and it's sort of this mishmash put together and I love him. I
It's
was
so
like, I love him,
good.
Your Honor. I would die. He's so cute. Um, but yeah, so it's that was a lot of fun because I was like, who what? I will die for him, but also I'm gonna make people fight him, so haha. Um, so yeah, it's this basically built by, swamp dwelling folk who have magic who need they use them both for protection. They use them as beasts of burden when they need to,
Mhm.
so they can sort of lumber around and drag things with them. But also it has the ability to basically flip its stump legs back and use the water wheel as propulsion. So, because when you're in a swamp or a bog or things like that, you have the land, but then you also have the water that you have to navigate through. Um, so it has the ability, so it's sort of like a little bit maybe lumbersome on the land, and it sort of like stomps around with his big old feet and
Mhm.
but as soon as it gets in the water, it can go a lot faster and it's more maneuverable. So they use it too to like get around because you can just hitch up a flat bottom boat on this thing and it just drags you through the water.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So and I love him so much. And
I actually, you know what? I'm allowed to share some art. And so I've actually pulled this one up because when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this thing is so good. It's so good."
it's great. It is really good.
Let me wait. Did I just? I thought. Wait. Did I not share it? Where did I save this? I guess I hadn't saved it. There we go. And wait. Huh? Why is it not saving?
No, I believe in you.
Yeah, come on.
Technology.
Check internet connection. What do you mean check internet connection? I'm actively on the
I was
internet.
like, we're gonna have problems
What do
if you
you
haven't.
mean? Come on. I just want to I want to share with the people.
Yeah. So it actually reminded me a lot of while you're doing that, there was an old movie from the early 80s called The Quest that I
Mhm.
don't know if anybody watched. It's got the same guy who was Elliot in E.T. I think it was his first movie after that, where he's in Australia and he's dealing with a lot of like the Australian um tales and things like that. Oh, I
Mhm.
think he's up.
Yes, he
Yay.
is.
And so he's like out searching, and there's this spoilers. There's this monster in the swamp, in this lake out in the outback, and it turns out to be a submerged uh like excavator.
Oh.
So it's this machine, and it because of the way that the air is coming up from underneath the water because there's weird air pockets and it's filling up the like the scoopy thing of the excavator and it bubbles up out of the water periodically and looks
Mhm.
terrifying. Everybody thinks there's a monster in the lake because it's just covered in moss and algae and everything else. And so
Right.
I saw this guy and I was like, oh no.
It's just like him. It's so good. And like this was one of the artist led ones, right?
Yes. So yes,
Um
that came first. And
yes.
yeah, the art came first.
Which is this for everyone. This is from our artist William O'Brien. Um, just absolutely very friend shaped, but also
Yes.
very terrifying.
Yes. He's so cute. And also, yeah. So actually, so I was funny as I was trying to come up with a name and, periodically I'll poke my darling husband for help with things because I'm like, I'm stuck on this. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
need a name for this guy. He's like, Francis. And I was like,
Francis.
well, Thank you. But yes, he's Francis now. So his name is Francis, everybody.
Right.
FYI.
That's
Um,
Francis. You heard it
that's
here from the
Francis.
designer themselves has said.
Absolutely. His name is Francis, and I love him. Just think about that when you're killing him in your games later. Good job.
You killed Francis.
You killed Francis.
Why would you anyone want to destroy him? Come on. I'm sure whatever he did was an accident.
Yeah.
Just talk it out. It's so good. We did get one question. Were there any design rules that you wish that you could be able to break, but you weren't able
Oh
to?
gosh. Um, I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, we've got a lot of flexibility in what we can do and a lot of design rules. Uh, there's not a lot of super strict rules except when it comes to like stat calculation and things like that. But if you can come
Okay.
up with something interesting and you can come up with a reason why it is the way it is, um, and make it make sense design wise, then you can kind of do whatever you want to. So,
Fair enough.
yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, fair enough. Sometimes it's just fun and good.
Mhm.
Oh my god. Hawkeye says, "Oh, so now I have to feel guilty if Francis fights."
Yes,
And
you
yeah,
should feel guilty.
you should.
Absolutely. He did nothing wrong ever in his life.
Just look at his cute little turtle face.
Yep, yep.
Look at his big old
He's
trunk
just
legs.
smiling. He's
He's
giving you a nice smile. It's fine.
yeah. Look, I love him so much. The art is so good. The art is so good. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much for sitting here and chatting with me. This was a lot of fun. Talking about our both our fear, respect, and love of the sea and the creatures inside of it. And also Francis. Let people know where they can find you, your work, other things that you're working on the internet.
Not a web designer. It took me all day, but it exists. It's there.
Yes. There we go. There was a very brief moment where I accidentally did mute you because
Oh
I had
no.
it's my the period is both
Oh, it's the mute
it's
and
the mute. I posted all of the links that you did say though. Yes, please find
if you
Sarah.
Google Unfettered Muse, you probably find me
Yes,
wherever it is. So
there you
yeah, I'm
go.
not really on Twitter anymore. Don't really use my Facebook much, but it does exist. So yeah, but yeah.
Amazing. Yes. Please go follow Sarah over on Unfettered Muse. Check out our website and all of that amazing stuff. And thank you all for being here for another Kobold Chats. My name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer. Where can you find me? Here every week. Oh, except next week. You won't be able to find me here next week. I almost lied to you. Next week, I will be driving across the country to uproot my life and root it somewhere else. And so I believe Zach, assuming that everything is okay, will be taking control, and we might have a guest, not for Monster Vault, but for one of our VTT partners. So we'll keep you all updated on all of that. But until the next time we meet, thank you all so much for being here. Don't forget to follow us everywhere on social media at Kobold Press. Also, you can primarily find us over on Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Kobold Press. So I will see you all next time. And don't forget to go out, be bold, be brave, be valiant. And I will see you all next time. See y'all.
Bye.